Good morning, Class 8th. Hope you all are doing well. Today we'll be starting the third chapter of your first semester, that is the last chapter of your first semester, chapter number 6, Chemical Reactions. Now, as you all know, first we need to understand why the name of chapter Chemical Reaction is given as Chemical Reaction. Here in this chapter, we'll be dealing with all the different types of chemical reactions. Okay? The characteristics of chemical reactions, what is a chemical reaction, and so on. So let's start the chapter Chemical Reaction. Now, first question comes, what actually is a chemical reaction? So you can say a chemical reaction is breaking of chemical bonds between the atoms or group of atom of reacting substances and making a new bond to form a new substance. That means what? What is a chemical reaction? The change of one or more substances into another new substance having different composition and properties is called a chemical reaction. Now in the example, as you can see in the slide, carbon is solid. Okay, S stands for solid. When it reacts with oxygen, that is in gaseous form, it forms carbon dioxide. Okay, now C plus O2, okay, that is on the left hand side. When two substances react together, they are known as reactants. Okay, and when they react, they form a desired product that is called CO2. Here the product is CO2 and the reactants are carbon plus oxygen. Okay, now the chemical bond between them is attractive force, okay, that holds the atoms of a molecule together to form a compound. So in this slide you can see methane, CH4. Okay, one carbon is attached with 4 hydrogen atoms. Okay, so the formula becomes CH4 when reacts with oxygen molecules, okay, 2O2. It gives carbon dioxide. Breaking of bond takes place of methane, the bond breaks, okay, and it links up with hydrogen to form water molecules. So you can see in this slide 2H2O and CO2 gas is evolved. So can you see CH4 plus 2O2, when they are combining, they are forming a new product, that is bonds are breaking and then they are combining together to form different molecule having different composition. So this is what is a chemical reaction. Now we'll be talking about characteristics of chemical reaction. In your book there are different characteristics that has been observed in a chemical reaction. Okay, they can be evolution of gas, formation of a precipitate, change in color, change in temperature, change in state. Okay, so we'll be taking each and every characteristic one by one. So the first comes is your evolution of gas. The word evolution itself means to come out. Okay, evolute, to come out. So what happens in the chemical reactions? The gases evolute, the gases rise up. Okay, so in your book, when you go through your book, you'll see various examples are given. We'll most probably 3 examples are given in your book, but we'll take single example to understand the topic, that is evolution of gas. So what happens whenever there will be a chemical reaction, out of 5 characteristics, 5 or 6 characteristics, one has to be there, then only you can say that yes, it is a chemical reaction. So first example or first property is evolution of gas. In a chemical reaction, what happens if you take zinc? Okay, can you see in the flask zinc granules are there and it combines with dilute hydrochloric acid? What happens? Now you can write the formula, Zn plus HCl, right, gives off ZnCl2 plus H2. Can you see the reaction? You can write it by your own. Zinc, that is Zn, plus dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, if you take dilute sulfuric acid also, or hydrochloric also. So zinc plus H2SO4 gives off ZnSO4 plus H2. Now H2 is what? It is a gas. So hydrogen gas is evolving. Clear? So what happens whenever there is a chemical reaction taking place? Evolution of gas takes place. Same thing goes with when you take the example, another example is given in your book, that is of sodium sulfite Na2SO3. When reacts with HCl, what happens? It gives a suffocating smell. Sulfur gives suffocating smell, that means you cannot breathe in properly because sulfur dioxide gets liberated. SO2 gas is suffocating. Okay? So, the first chemical properties of chemical reaction, characteristic of chemical reaction, I hope it is clear. We'll move to the next property, that is change in color. You know very well, children, that whenever you do or you perform any experiments in the lab, what happens? There are certain things that distinguishes from one substance to another. And one of the basic properties of changing in color. Very good example is of potassium permanganate. If you take a glass of water and you put 2 or 3 pieces of potassium permanganate, you can see a rich purple color substance coming out in the reaction. So whenever any change in color takes place when you are reacting the reactant to form a desired product, this is one of the chief feature or characteristic of a chemical reaction. Okay. Now in your book again there are various examples given. One I have already told you, that is of potassium permanganate, and this one we will see that if you take lead nitrate is what? PbNO3 whole twice. If you go through your book you can find those reactions given in your book. PbNO3 whole twice. Okay, when you heat them, it is white in color. Okay, when lead nitrate is heated, it is white in color. It decomposes and produces a yellow, light yellow solid substance. Okay, that is lead monoxide. Lead monoxide, PbO. Okay, and reddish brown color substance, as you can see in the diagram, that is yellowish is turning into reddish brown substance. Okay, that is nitrogen dioxide, NO2, and oxygen is evolved as gas. So you can see the substance changing from colorless to yellow and from yellow to reddish brown. So beta, generally whenever any reaction is taking place, the change in color is one of the chief peculiar characteristic to show that yes, a reaction has taken place. Next comes is your formation of precipitate. Now, the word precipitate means what? That there are certain chemical reactions where insoluble substances are formed. Okay? Insoluble substances. There are substances that are not soluble and they don't make a solution. They settle down at the bottom. So, what is a precipitate? A precipitate is an insoluble solid substance that settles at the bottom of the reacting tube. Now that reacting tube can be a test tube, a beaker or anything. So when it does not get soluble, it settles at the bottom. Okay. Very good example in your book is given of silver nitrate. When silver nitrate is added to NaCl, aqueous solution, silver nitrate is added to sodium chloride, what happens? A silver chloride white precipitate. As you can see in the diagram also, the colorless liquid is your silver nitrate. Okay, and NaCl is being added drop by drop. Okay, and in the third figure you can see that white insoluble substance as white precipitate is being formed. That is nothing but your silver chloride, AgCl, is being formed. So this is how precipitation takes place. Next comes is your change in state. There is possibility that in a chemical reaction, change in state is observed. That means when you start a reaction, the substance or the reacting substances are soluble in nature. But Later you can see, you will observe later in the various further stages that gaseous or that solid substance changes into gaseous form. So here in this reaction you can see what happens. This reaction is very good example as hydrogen sulfide when reacts with chlorine. Can you see beside them they both the places it is written G. G stands for gases. When they both react, it produces what? Hydrogen chloride plus sulfur. Now this hydrogen chloride is again a gas, so it is mentioned G, and this sulfur turns into yellow solid. Now can you see when both the gases are reacting, it is forming a gas as well as a solid. So sometimes in a chemical reaction, the change in state also takes place. And the last property is change in energy. Now what is change in energy? You must have seen that for performing any chemical reaction, you need to apply a lot of heat also. In the labs also, you heat the substances to produce a desired result. So what happens? Large amount of heat is required. Like if you burning a fuel, you require large amount of heat. So when you provide large amount of heat, heat is a form of energy. So energy changes, okay? Or in the previous slides, I have already given you in breaking of bond, what happens? The bonds are breaking because of this attractive energy bond between them, right? So during decomposition also what happens? Energy is absorbed. So there is change in energy, either it increases or it decreases in a chemical reaction. So in these slides we have talked about the characteristics of a chemical reaction. I hope all the points are clear to you, and for the further reactions, there are many reactions given in your book. You can go through it, you can try to understand. If there is a problem, you can discuss it in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. God bless you.